It's amazing just how much Everything Everywhere All at Once dominated this past award season, leaving every other movie in the dust. At the 95th Academy Awards, the A24 blockbuster received 7 gold trophies, 6 of them in the above-the-line categories, the most ever for any film in Oscar history. Only 2 other movies won multiple Oscars that night, All Quiet on the Western Front, which earned 4, and The Whale, which got 2. Especially shocking was how many great films nominated for lots of Oscars went home empty-handed on March 12th. The Banshees of Inisherin won Best Motion Picture Comedy or Musical at the Golden Globes, and both Supporting Actor and Supporting Actress at BAFTA, but it didn't win a single Oscar. Cate Blanchett won tons of prizes for Tar throughout the season, but Michelle Yeoh won the Best Actress Oscar, and thus Tar went home with nothing. Elvis seemed a shoo-in for at least 1 or 2 technical prizes, if not Best Actor for Austin Butler, but the film ultimately went 0 for 8. And then there was The Fabelmans, the movie that throughout much of 2022 looked on paper to be a crucial player throughout award season and potentially a big winner on Oscar night. For a while, it looked to be on track for major victories, premiering at the Toronto Film Festival to rave reviews and the coveted Audience Award. It fell short at the box office upon its release Thanksgiving weekend, but the love for the film was strong going into January when it won Best Director for Spielberg and Best Motion Picture Drama at the Golden Globes. At the start of 2023, you could have bet on a few things happening for The Fabelmans come Oscar nominations morning. Steven Spielberg getting yet another nod for Best Director, a Best Picture nomination was inevitable, as was the original screenplay. Michelle Williams appeared likely to receive her 5th Academy Award nomination, despite her campaigning in the more competitive lead actress category instead of supporting. And it also seemed to be a certainty that after more than 20 years in the industry, with some big wins and nominations behind him, the fantastic Paul Dano was going to finally receive his first well-deserved Oscar nod. Dano got into Supporting Actor at Critics' Choice, he was recognized at SAG in both Supporting Actor and Best Cast in a Motion Picture. In a career of so many standout performances going back to the turn of the century, Dano had his most impressive year yet in 2022. Not only delivering a remarkable dramatic performance as the father in The Fabelmans, but also inhabiting the genuinely creepy and memorable The Riddler in Matt Reeves' The Batman. If there was ever a year to get Paul Dano into the Oscar Final 5 for Best Supporting Actor, this seemed to be the one. The Fabelmans ultimately received 7 Oscar nods total, which showed there was a lot of support for the film. It got into Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, and Best Supporting Actor. At long last, Paul Dano was finally... Oh wait. The person nominated in Supporting Actor this past award season wasn't Dano, of course, but Judd Hirsch, recognized for his 10 minutes in the Spielberg film. I couldn't believe it. I was stunned. Dano had been passed over again. Seriously, what the hell does Paul Dano need to do to receive an Oscar nomination? He's made great and daring choices throughout his career, sometimes in lead roles, often in supporting. I know he's not even 40, he still has lots of chances in the years ahead, but Dano should have at least 1 Oscar nomination by now, if not 2 or 3, and it's time to explore why this talented actor keeps coming up short. In this, my 100th video, we're talking the incredible career of Paul Dano and why he still has never been nominated for that elusive Oscar. First, let's start at the beginning. Paul Franklin Dano was born on June 19, 1984, to Father Paul and Mother Gladys. As a child, he was involved in community theater, and his parents were eventually encouraged to take him to New York. Dano made his Broadway debut at age 12 in Inherit the Wind alongside George C. Scott, and he started popping up in a couple TV projects, like this 1998 episode of Smart Guy.
And if she joins the team, where are we supposed to shower? At home, Nicholas, like we always do.
His first major film role was that of Howie Blitzer, a teenager who becomes involved with a middle-aged man played by Brian Cox in the independent film L.I.E.
Yeah, hello, is Gary there? Excuse me? Oh, shit.
The controversial coming-of-age drama premiered at the 2001 Sundance Film Festival and was eventually released unrated in theaters in the fall. The reviews were strong, many critics singling out Paul Dano's impressive performance. Although the film didn't do much business at the box office, it was definitely one of the most buzzed-about indie titles of the year, winning 20 prizes across various award ceremonies and film festivals, Its biggest haul was at the Film Independent Spirit Awards in 2002, where it received 7 nominations, including Best Feature, Best Director, and Best Male Lead for Brian Cox, and it won Best Debut Performance for Paul Dano. Here's a glimpse at his speech.
I guess I'd just like to thank all these people for helping me achieve one of the greatest accomplishments of my life this far, which is really this film, and this award just goes to show that, so thank you all.
This indeed was the role that got him attention from filmmakers and casting directors. Almost immediately he was showing up in big Hollywood movies, like the awards-baity drama The Emperor's Club and the teenage sex comedy The Girl Next Door.
So, what do you guys do?
I get freaky.
He also continued going after indie movies too, like The Ballad of Jack and Rose starring Daniel Day-Lewis and The King starring Gael Garcia Bernal. No role of his between 2002 and 2005 was making that big of an impression, especially at the awards level, but all that was about to change the following year. Paul Dano's first colossal breakthrough onto the cinema scene was Little Miss Sunshine, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in January 2006 and became a critical darling, box office sensation, and awards juggernaut throughout the next 14 months. The film, about a family determined to get their daughter into the finals of a beauty pageant, was a fresh, offbeat comedy that featured a delicious platter of memorable performances, from Alan Arkin as the grandpa who speaks his mind, to Steve Carell as the suicidal uncle, to Abigail Breslin as the precious little phenom. Greg Kinnear and Toni Collette are terrific as the parents, and then there's Paul Dano as Dwayne, little Olive's older brother who has taken a vow of silence and wants to be a jet pilot. In Dano's most pivotal scene in the movie, Dwayne learns he is colorblind and therefore won't be able to fly jets. Although Dano spends most of the movie in silence, his character goes through a beautiful arc, and by the end, he's in a better place. It's a character you warm up to, come to love, and Dano is just amazing. He ultimately didn't get far with nominations for Best Supporting Actor, since early on Alan Arkin became the favorite for the film in that category. Before his performance, Dano received a nod at the Film Independent Spirit Awards, won Best Young Actor at the Critics' Choice Awards, and took part in the Best Cast in a Motion Picture Prize at SAG. The year before, Crash had won Best Ensemble at SAG and went on to win the Best Picture Oscar. I'm sure I wasn't the only one predicting in early 2007 that Little Miss Sunshine was going to take Best Picture too, especially after the film won at PGA. It was a movie lots of Academy members were embracing and voting for from their hearts. Abigail Breslin became one of the youngest nominees ever for Best Supporting Actress. Alan Arkin won Best Supporting Actor, beating out the presumed frontrunner Eddie Murphy, and Michael Arndt took home the gold trophy for Best Original Screenplay.
When Little Miss Sunshine got to go to the Oscars, and I remember going for the first time. Couldn't believe I was sitting in that theater. I think I probably didn't say a word to anyone the whole night.
Of course, The Departed ended up taking the top prize at the end of the day, but Paul Dano was about to return to award season a year later with another superb performance. There Will Be Blood was one of the most highly anticipated films of 2007, one that paired the legendary thespian Daniel Day-Lewis with the gifted director Paul Thomas Anderson. The story focuses on a turn-of-the-century prospector Daniel Plainview in the early days of the oil business. Dano plays a pair of twins, primarily Eli Sunday, the local preacher and self-proclaimed faith healer whose family farm Daniel purchases for oil. Like Little Miss Sunshine, There Will Be Blood received rave reviews and dominated throughout award season. Daniel Day-Lewis and Paul Thomas Anderson were for a long while expected to be the two figures behind the film to get the most attention, but Paul Dano did receive some Oscar buzz as well, more than he did for Little Miss Sunshine. I believe Dano should have made it into the Oscar top 5 in Best Supporting Actor for There Will Be Blood. Dano's character is haunting, tragic, boisterous, bizarre. It's hard to stand out in front of Daniel Day-Lewis for nearly 3 hours, but Dano manages to pull it off. He fell short at the first few precursor ceremonies, like Golden Globes and SAG, but then Dano got into a big one. He received a Best Supporting Actor nomination at BAFTA, which showed buzz for his performance was growing. The film received 8 Oscar nominations, including Picture, Director, and Actor, but nothing for Dano. He was likely in 6th or 7th place, considering all the support the movie got, but the Academy ultimately went in different directions in the supporting actor category. Still, the attention for There Will Be Blood had to have given Dano's career an even bigger boost than Little Miss Sunshine, Daniel Day-Lewis winning the Oscar for Best Actor, the film beloved to this day.
How did you handle the fame that came after Little Miss Sunshine?
Getting recognized for the first few times was hard. It was very strange. And then after There Will Be Blood, I started going places and people would send me milkshakes to my table, you know, and I'm lactose intolerant. And so I can never drink them. And I always feel so bad because the person spent, you know, $3 or $5 or whatever a milkshake costs. And I go, you know, thank you.
For the next 6 years, Paul Dano showed up in projects big and small. Night and Day and Cowboys and Aliens proved Dano wasn't averse to showing up in big studio action movies, but he also stayed focused on smaller films too, like The Extra Man and The Good Heart, the latter film reuniting him with his L.I.E. co-star Brian Cox. Dano continued working with great directors like Ang Lee on Taking Woodstock, Spike Jonze on Where the Wild Things Are, and Kelly Reichardt on Meek's Cutoff, the latter film teaming him with his future Fabelmans co-star Michelle Williams. 2012 was a big year for Paul Dano, acting opposite Robert De Niro in the drama Being Flynn and having a rare starring role in the clever comedy Ruby Sparks, opposite Zoe Kazan, the gifted actress and writer who's been Dano's life partner since 2007.
F. Scott Fitzgerald, the novelist.
I don't read a lot of fiction.
Oh, he's probably one of the greatest novelists who ever lived.
An even stronger year for Dano was 2013, where he delivered 2 excellent and disturbing supporting performances in 2 of the year's best films. The first was Prisoners, directed by Denis Villeneuve and starring Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal. Dano plays a mentally ill young man suspected of being a kidnapper and a murderer.
Yeah, sit down. Come on. Did you put those girls somewhere? Don't touch me. I know you put those girls somewhere. You hide them?
No.
How'd you hide them? Do you tie them up?
His other big 2013 release was Steve McQueen's 12 Years a Slave, the acclaimed historical drama that became an awards season juggernaut. In the film, Dano plays an abusive slave driver.
This ain't done by half. I will have flesh, and I will have all of it.
I'm not sure if his roles in 12 Years a Slave or Prisoners were significant enough to warrant Oscar talk for Paul Dano, but the films continued to prove his talent and versatility. He got another SAG nomination with the rest of the cast of 12 Years a Slave in the Best Ensemble category, and the movie won Oscars for Best Supporting Actress, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Picture. When the film beat out Gravity for that final prize, Dano joined everyone behind Brad Pitt on the crowded stage. Paul Dano's next Oscar bid came with one of his finest performances to date, that of the real-life Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, the younger version, in the compelling biopic drama Love and Mercy, co-starring John Cusack.
The last verse repeats one more time, and the chorus will harmonize over and over at the end. It's still rough, I know, but it's getting there. It's right for Carl's voice. Do you like it, Dad?
Dano's performance started getting buzzed about right after its world premiere at the Toronto Film Festival in September 2014, and when the film finally hit theaters in June the following year, Dano received the kind of glowing reviews he'd rarely been bestowed. Peter Travers in Rolling Stone saying, "Dano lets it bleed as Brian Wilson, giving a performance awards were invented for." Dano got 2 big award nominations right out of the gate, recognized at both the Golden Globe Awards and the Critics' Choice Awards for Best Supporting Actor. These were encouraging first steps, but then the film floundered after that, not showing up at SAG or BAFTA. Dano got in at the Film Independent Spirit Awards, and he won a Gotham Award.
I want to thank Brian Wilson for helping me and a lot of other people out there smile. So thank you.
But momentum on Love and Mercy had cooled by Oscar nominations morning, and for a movie that wasn't getting recognized in any other category at the precursor ceremonies, Dano's impressive performance went overlooked. It's too bad. This could have been a really cool first Oscar nomination for Paul Dano, maybe the only one for the movie, but a well-deserved one nonetheless. I think if the film had opened in theaters in the fall instead of in the summer, he might have had a good chance. Dano kept working hard, showing up in unusual and compelling material like Swiss Army Man, the feature debut of the Daniels 6 years before they made Everything Everywhere All at Once. In 2018, Dano had 2 firsts, a rare switch from film to television with his terrific performance in the Showtime limited series Escape at Dannemora, and his feature directorial debut, Wildlife, starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Carey Mulligan. Escape from Dannemora rightfully earned Dano a Critics' Choice Award nomination and his first Primetime Emmy Award nomination, and although his small indie movie Wildlife never gained much traction with audiences, the film received strong reviews and was nominated for the Golden Camera Award at the Cannes Film Festival and Best First Feature at the Film Independent Spirit Awards. So many awards nominations, so much acclaim, but still by 2022, there was no Oscar nomination for Paul Dano. Was The Batman going to be the movie to do it?
You showed me all it takes is fear and a little focused violence. You inspired me. You're out of your goddamn mind.
Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix had both won Oscars for playing the Joker, so who's to say the respected Dano couldn't get into the awards race for playing a disturbed new version of the Riddler? The March release date didn't help, and neither was more attention being paid to the stunning makeup job for another terrific supporting actor in the same movie, Colin Farrell as the Penguin. Alas, most pundits predicted Paul Dano's first Oscar nomination wasn't going to be for a DC comic book movie released at the beginning of 2022, but instead for an awards-friendly, semi-autobiographical Steven Spielberg drama released at the end of 2022. As I discussed at the beginning of the video, The Fabelmans is, without a doubt, the closest Paul Dano has ever come to an Oscar nomination. Little Miss Sunshine and There Will Be Blood were possible, but long shots, and there wasn't much support for the movie Love and Mercy to guarantee he could ride the Golden Globe and Critics' Choice love all the way to an Oscar nomination. But The Fabelmans should have gotten him the Oscar nod. His performance as Bert Fabelman, so full of sorrow and pain, and yet also endearing. His scenes with Gabriel LaBella Sammy are often his best.
I'm asking you to do this now for your mom.
Yeah, and I said that I will, just not tomorrow.
Don't be selfish. She just lost her mother. That's more important than your hobby.
It must have been really daunting for Dano to play essentially Steven Spielberg's own father in a movie directed by Spielberg himself, but Dano was more than up to the task. Critics loved his work in the film, his performance making Time's top 10 movie performances of 2022, his portrayal described as the sum of all things that so many men of that generation just didn't know how to be. We also see a deep well of love, no less real for being left unexpressed. Awards love for Dano's performance in The Fabelmans seemed imminent, especially with Best Supporting Actor not hugely competitive this past season. One early slip was Dano missing at Golden Globes, despite his co-star Michelle Williams getting in, and the film winning there in Best Director for Spielberg and Best Motion Picture Drama. The Hollywood Foreign Press clearly loved the movie, so why didn't they nominate Dano? But then things looked more promising when he made it in at Critics' Choice, followed by a key nomination for Best Supporting Actor at SAG. Michelle Williams missed there in Lead Actress, which showed she was vulnerable, and SAG was the one major awards ceremony where Paul Dano didn't share his category with another actor from The Fabelmans, Judd Hirsch. Dano's solo nod seemed to indicate his momentum was growing, and with Oscar nominations just days away, I thought the big moment was finally going to happen for him.
$100 for a hobby?
It's not a hobby, Dad.
If you spend half the time on algebra that you spend on these movies...
I hate algebra. Why are you... It's completely pointless.
Not if you want to make something, it's not pointless.
What a slap in the face it must have felt for Paul Dano to be on the cusp of his first Oscar nomination, only for Judd Hirsch to swoop into the Best Supporting Actor category instead, the film also being recognized in Picture, Director, Original Screenplay, and Lead Actress. Ke Huy Quan was always winning the Supporting Actor Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Dano didn't have a snowball's chance in hell in ever winning, but a nomination would have been a wonderful gesture to an actor who had paid his dues the last 2 decades and who had given not just one but 2 great performances the previous year. And instead they gave the nod to the actor with 10 minutes of screen time. So why did Dano's Oscar nomination omission happen? Some might argue he was in enough of The Fabelmans to be considered lead actor, especially since Michelle Williams successfully campaigned for the lead actress category. I don't think that would have helped him, given that 4 of the 5 slots in Best Actor were all but locked up, and it's doubtful Dano would have gotten in over Paul Mescal for Aftersun. You could also argue it's kind of a quiet and reserved performance. He doesn't get one big emotive moment in the movie, but again, I ask, what does Paul Dano need to do to get an Oscar nomination? He should have been nominated 3 times by now, for There Will Be Blood, Love and Mercy, and The Fabelmans. Hell, a nod for Little Miss Sunshine would have warmed my heart too. But all hope is not lost. He has lots of projects in post-production at the moment, including Dumb Money from I, Tonya director Craig Gillespie. That project due later this year sounds promising. And as I said earlier, Paul Dano is not even 40. He can do this. He will do this. I believe his first Oscar nomination is coming, I would bet, in the next 5 years. One more juicy role in an awards-friendly movie, and the Academy will likely be calling his name on nominations morning. I want it to happen for Paul Dano. He's proven time and time again that he deserves it. What a career he's made for himself in such a short amount of time. And I can't wait to see everything he'll do, both as an actor and as a director, in the decades to come. Fingers crossed he gets that Oscar nomination sooner rather than later, and then, just maybe, his first ever Oscar trophy. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to vote on who gets to be the subject of my next Elusive Oscar video, click the link in the description below to go to the new Brian ROWE video Patreon. Emily Blunt, Bradley Cooper, Michelle Pfeiffer, you decide who gets the next Elusive Oscar treatment. See you next time.